Well, it's finally here. It's Super Bowl week. Great to have betting analyst Meghan Payton along for the ride. Meghan, welcome.
Thank you, Dave. I'm so excited to break down the biggest game of the year, sometimes the hardest game to handicap, though, but I know we'll find a way to get some props out there.
Yeah, absolutely, we will. Okay, let me get it right from the beginning. So, it's conference final Sunday. We finally know that it's going to be Eagles and Chiefs. What's the first thing that comes to mind when you're thinking, okay, 2 weeks away from now, it's going to be the Super Bowl, and these are the teams?
I'll say this, Dave. It's two number one seeds, and we really don't see that as often as you might think, but it's fun because these are the two best teams. The Eagles are the most complete team, maybe outside of the Niners. And then the Chiefs, they've got their star power and Patrick Mahomes. I think this is going to be a maybe more tougher game to handicap, but it's going to be the two best teams actually made it. And, we've seen the books kind of go back and forth a little bit. It's been almost a pick 'em game, and now the Eagles are 1.5 point favorites. And I'll just say this: I'm rolling with Philly this week.
Do you have a lean on a total? Because it's a fairly high total, 50.5 right now at Sports Interaction. It kind of tells us that this could be a little bit of a shootout. And when you look at the two offenses, two of the best offenses in football, maybe it leads to that direction.
Well, I'll say this, Dave, because I'm on the Philadelphia Eagles to win the game, I'm going to take under 50.5. And I'll say this: if you like Kansas City, maybe play the over here. The reason I'm looking at under 50.5 is because the Eagles are going to win with what they do great, which is running the ball. And typically when you've got an awesome run game, which the Eagles do, the under seems to hit more often. Miles Sanders, Jalen Hurts, they're going to be able to do a lot on the ground. I didn't think that they were going to be able to do as much as they did last week against a Niners run defense that's top in the league. Now they'll be taking on a Kansas City defense that you really can't compare to the Niners. I like the under here, and that's mainly because I like the Eagles to win, and I like the run game to be a big factor in this one.
Okay, we both have the Eagles to win this game. So when you're looking at Super Bowl MVP, it's usually the winning side unless something titanic happens on the other side in a losing cause. So Jalen Hurts, of course, one of the favorites. AJ Brown's in that conversation. You mentioned Miles Sanders. Is it worth a flyer to you at plus 2,500 to maybe circle him as the game MVP?
I like that, Dave. I like that a lot because I have Miles Sanders as my leading rusher. We'll go into some rushing props here in a sec, but I will throw this out. For a long shot defensive MVP of the game, how about Hassan Reddick? He's kind of been an underdog this season, but he's had 19 and a half sacks on the year. This defensive line has been fantastic. If they're able to win this game and get pressure on Patrick Mahomes, it's probably going to be a lot due to Hassan Reddick. That's a fun kind of long shot MVP if you're looking to get some value.
Man, the Eagles defense has been so good, especially in the last couple of weeks. And, for the most part, the better part of the season, the Eagles defense has been very good. Okay, let's get into some props. But before we get into some passing, rushing, and receiving ones, let me throw you a blanket sheet and say, when you see the prop list, and it is Titanic itself, what's a favorite prop you kind of go to where you have a little bit of an edge on it, or you have a good feeling about it, or it's something that's just something that Meghan Payton just loves to bet on?
Well, it's not always the same, Dave. With Super Bowl, I'll say this. We know that everyone wants to get in on the action for Super Bowl, and fans love to bet the over. It's so intriguing. Even I love to bet the over. You hate to bet an under. Having said that, I think if you want to get some value in the Super Bowl market, betting an under typically does you well. So I don't have a specific prop that I always tend to look at, but when it comes to passing yards this week, that is going to be something that I'm eyeing, which is under 245.5 passing yards for Jalen Hurts. Might sound contradictory because I have the Eagles winning. I don't think so, because as we've just mentioned, the Eagles' run game has been fantastic. They're able to do a ton on the ground with Miles Sanders, Jalen Hurts, Kenneth Gainwell for that matter. And Jalen Hurts, even when he's been super productive through the air, which he has been even before his shoulder injury, he only hit over 245.5 passing yards 5 times this season. This line is a little bit off, in my opinion, and I think that's because the public likes to bet the over. So that is an under that I'm going to be eyeing for Super Bowl Sunday.
Really good analysis there, because I have it written down here. 17 starts, 5-12 to the over when you look at that mark. So Patrick Mahomes is kind of in the opposite category. His number right now at Sports Interaction, 291.5, and he's hit that 12 out of 19 times. Are you thinking that's also, or I say, if Hurts is an under, is Mahomes an over in that situation?
So I've gone back and forth on this one, Dave. I'm holding off right now just because of the Kansas City wide receiver injuries. When the time that we're filming this, we don't know. We know Hardman is doubtful. Juju Smith-Schuster dealing with a knee injury. Kadarius Toney, we don't know if he's going to play, and I think that has a lot to do with whether we're going to see Patrick Mahomes over hit. I'll say this, though, from what we know right now, we can just talk alone about the Eagles' pass defense. They're top in the league. If any team can create this pressure to Patrick Mahomes and force him to scramble, we know he's great at it. Patrick Mahomes is elite and he's fantastic. And his injury, I'm not too worried about. I still wouldn't bet the over on Patrick Mahomes, given everything that we've seen from him this year. At least wait and hold off on these wide receiver injuries.
Yeah, good call. Let's skip over the wide receivers because you mentioned there are a number of injuries, and we'll know more about that as the week goes on. And you know what? A lot of times at the Super Bowl, just like every big game, it's a secret.
Yeah,
Nobody's going to
exactly.
tell you exactly who's playing and who's not. So let's get into some rushing props. You mentioned what the Eagles do along the ground, which has been a strength, including their quarterback, which might be their best rusher when you look at it.
It's true. And, when I actually look at the rushing yards props and I'm looking at Jalen Hurts, I'm looking at Miles Sanders, Kenneth Gainwell, just from the Eagles' perspective, they all could hit the over, honestly, here. Jalen Hurts right now at 48.5, Miles Sanders at 55.5. You can get, decent value on both of those. But here's my favorite rushing prop. It's actually going to be Miles Sanders as the leading rusher. Right now, I think you can find it at like plus 150. His biggest competition is going to be Jalen Hurts, but Miles Sanders has been fantastic this year. And this even goes to your point of him potentially being the Super Bowl MVP. The reason we've seen Kenneth Gainwell come in more towards the end of the game is a blowout game. I mean, really, it's been harder to break down this Eagles team in the postseason because their first game they took on the Giants, which many of us don't think that the Giants were really deserving of being there. And then they played up against a 49ers team that was on their fourth string quarterback who got hurt. They didn't have a quarterback. So Kenneth Gainwell came in. Let's keep Miles Sanders healthy. This is the Super Bowl. I don't care what the points are on the board, which I do expect to be close. Miles Sanders is going to be a leading rusher in this game. In fact, I have him as my top rusher. So that's a good way to get some plus money on a rushing prop.
Yeah, and that's what we're all about the plus money. So
Yeah.
let's talk touchdown props. So we know that, a lot of the public will love the Kelsey touchdown props, the AJ Brown one, the Devonta Smith ones, just because it's the least amount to make there. But let's go outside the box. Let me present to you a couple of cases. A Boston Scott anytime touchdown. Maybe a Patrick Mahomes anytime touchdown where people think that, oh, he's not going to rush the ball, and all of a sudden Mahomes
Yeah.
finds the end zone because you could get him at about plus 440. Is there any other anytime touchdowns scores that at least maybe we should take a flyer at?
I take a fly at tight end Dallas Goedert anytime touchdown. He's been a good one for me this regular season. And I love the way that the Eagles have been able to use tight ends in their offense. We talk a lot about AJ Brown and Devonta Smith, two awesome wide receivers for this Eagles team. But the connection between Jalen Hurts and Dallas Goedert, especially when Hurts was healthy, has been really good. So I'm going to take Goddard as an anytime touchdown. I really like the Patrick Mahomes anytime touchdown as well, Dave. Great value at plus 440. Patrick Mahomes is going to use his legs, guys. I know he's got this ankle injury, but he's out there to play. A couple of weeks off to get healthy. He's going to be just fine.
Megan, this has been a lot of fun. I'll leave you with the one last prop, and I've been asking a lot of our analysts about this just because it is kind of fun and it kind of wraps up what the Super Bowl is all about. The Gatorade color of the winning coach. So whoever wins this game, somebody's getting dumped with Gatorade. Right now at Sports Interaction, the favorite is orange. Now, my favorite kind of Gatorade, just because I love drinking Gatorade, is blue, but I'm not convinced of blue. I'm more of the clear variety because I get the feeling that, you know what, on a football sideline, you want to drink water. I don't know how you're looking at it, but what's your say on the Gatorade prop?
Dave, I like that analysis there. Orange is too boring, so I'm not going with that. I like yellow/green. You like how they combine those together. Here's the thing. You got to match the colors accordingly. And if I like the Eagles to win, a yellow-green's going to look nice. You kind of put on maybe a little different shade of green, and it's only happened 3 times. But when's the last time it happened? In 2018 when the Eagles won the Super Bowl. So I'm all in on green/yellow at plus 340.
I love it. Megan, this has been a lot of fun. Enjoy the Super Bowl, and thank you for doing this.
Thank you so much, Dave. Cash some bets this weekend.